Okay, good morning. How are you today?
Good. Good morning.
Morning, thank you, and welcome to our summer workshop series, How to Save Your Summer in 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want to welcome you all. This is a program that is set up from Umbrella and Bag, and the goal here is just kind of help parents and caregivers and educators, prepare as we transition using the summer months basically as a transitional point of, hey, what can we learn? What can we do that where we kind of have this wiggle room in the summer just to kind of operate there. So a little introduction about myself. My name is Christina Smith. I am actually from Portland, Maine. I just actually moved to Biddeford, Maine, but I grew up in Portland. So I feel weird saying I'm Biddeford still. Um, and my exciting news today, this week, is that I get to visit my best friend and their baby this week. So I am very excited. So she's like, do you mind watching the baby for 2 hours? And I was like, gladly, I will watch your baby. So that is a little joy for myself here. And a little bit of my background here is I've had background includes education in social and behavioral sciences, the minor in psychology, and as of next week, I'll have a master's in educational psychology with a concentration in applied behavioral analysis. And my experience includes over 20 years experience in childcare and education, and that's a mix of meetings, summer camps, preschool teaching, research, education, and recently I presented at the Northeast put initials wrong, Northeast Positive Behavior Intervention Supports Conference. I was part of a study conducting the state of behavior in Maine schools. I started Umbrella and Bag Consulting, which is a parent and coaching consulting company, about a year ago. Back kind of started rooted in my experience of working in homes of parents as a nanny, just kind of offering support and wanting to continue the education that I'd done there. And so currently now I work as a parent and family coach as well as a child behavior specialist. So let's talk about routines. That's kind of where we're here today about morning routines. So what areas are you struggling creating them? And then what areas are you winning with them? And what are you hoping to learn about them? A lot of
Uh,
questions very early in the morning.
that's a lot of questions early in the morning.
You can pick one, you can pick none, whatever you feel welcome to.
I think what I'm hoping to learn is how to um, make the routines independent. Right?
Mm,
We have routines, we do them. Some days they're great, some days they're not, but I got to write it on a piece of paper, right?
mm,
Everything's a list. So do this list, do this thing. And I'm always doing the follow up, follow up, follow up. So how do I try and what can I do to get those a little more independent instead of mommy driven?
mm. Yeah, I think that's the question I hear a lot too is people want routines because they feel overwhelmed. They feel it's a lot on them as the caregiver or adult in the relationship, but then they don't know how to get that bridge there. And I think that's a very common concern there. So I think that, and I think a lot of people, I think I would say a lot of people are winning is that they want that, they have the motivation, they have the drive, they have the want of wanting the child to become independent. So I think that's really great because I think as an adult, that's their whole goal is to make, productive adults someday too, as a nurturing environment. So I think that's a really great, starting point. And so there's some reasons why routines are important, just to go over that. First off, it helps kids feel safe. When they know what to expect, they feel secure, they have less anxiety, they feel safe. It just kind of creates a sense of, okay, we know what to expect. Also, it's building good habits. These habits, what they learn in a routine, can be transferred to other areas. Once they learn a morning routine, we can transfer it to a bedtime routine or a routine to get ready for soccer, things like that. So it's kind of you start in the morning, kind of can translate to other areas. Also, it's about learning time management. A kid has to learn that we have this hour and a half to get ready for summer camp or school or to go to the beach. They have to also, it kind of teaches them those skills of what they have to do first in order to be able to do the next task. And also better behavior. Kids are less likely to act out when they know what they expect because, again, it goes back to that feeling safe. Their set expectations are set up. So we're setting them up for success because we're not just being, we know we're telling them what we're asking of them versus just having it happen. And also, it's about growing independence. So growing independence again, we talked about how can I have the kids do it. So part of the routines is showing, teaching them, you know, a lot of times what you're teaching parents is I do, we do, you do. The notion of I'll show you how to do it. We'll do it together. And then you'll do it. I'll kind of watch you and then hop in when you need help, but then kind of stay back and you'll do as much as you can. And then we can kind of build up our more skills in that pattern. And then balancing on emotions. I think routines are important because it helps again going that regulation and they feel safe, secure. It kind of helps balance those emotions up. They know what to expect in the morning, especially if they're tired, if it's early, if they're feeling overwhelmed about a new school year. It helps at least to have that stability. And also it can strengthen family bonds because you're not yelling or arguing in the morning or being like, oh my gosh, why aren't you ready yet? Why aren't your shoes on? You feel less stress as a parent. I think that helps your bond with your child as well. And handling changes, it makes it easier for kids to handle changes like starting school because they've learned these transitions. They have a similar routine that happened this summer that's happening in school, that's happening during winter break, that's happening back in the summer again. So it gives sort of like grounding and normalcy that can continue through the school year. So how do you create a routine? That's kind of the big why we're here, I could say today. So I always say first off, start with the end, start backwards. Um, there is a thing in behaviorism that's called an A5B analysis called backward chaining, where you learn behavior backwards. So the best way to explain it is you learn how to frost the cake before you learn how to bake the cake. And it seems kind of silly and weird to some people, but the reason why you do this is because you don't know how much time you need to know when you have to leave. So don't think about like where you need to start the routine, think of where you need to end the routine. So like if you know you need to leave, and I kind of an example here. So if you need to leave about 8:30 to be at camp at 8:45, we know it takes about 10 minutes to get the kids into the car. And then it may take about 10 minutes before that to get their socks and shoes on, another 15 to brush their hair and teeth. And then getting dressed might be another 20 minutes if they put your clothes out. Breakfast before that is 30 minutes. So total time there allotted was about an hour and 25 minutes. To leave at 8:30, you need to start this routine about 7:20. So, and I always is just here, get a little buffer room, so maybe you need to do 7 o'clock realistically if you know your child needs a little more, I call it buffer time. Think of like your Peter with a little sitting while buffering. Example from my own personal experience, I used to live 3 blocks away from my elementary school, but it would take me half an hour to walk there because I would get distracted by every flower, every squirrel. And my older brother, had to have me walk there. And like every block was one of my friends' grandmothers who had to like watch us walk there. And it would be like, Christina, you're going to be late for school. So my mom had to calculate this half an hour walk. And then if she wanted us to go to school, because I didn't like eating breakfast at home, but our school offered breakfast, she had to calculate me getting there in time to get the breakfast. So it was this whole me getting up at 7 o'clock to go to school 5 minutes away at 9 a.m. So we had this weird buffering time. And it seems so silly now in my head as a kid. As a kid, I hated it, but now as an adult, I'm like, oh no, that was my mom having that buffer time. So sometimes it means those extra 20 minutes where like, oh, you're so tired, you love that sleep. But having that time can create that peace for a child, and it can really help a little bit. So creating a routine, I would say first off, start making a list of the activities you need. Kind of go the basics of breakfast, getting dressed, brushing teeth, brushing hair, putting socks and shoes on, lunchbox, and wearable. Those are kind of the staples I noticed. And then when you're teaching them, I always say kind of start in an exact order that works best for your family, and then allow flexibility once you're able to complete the task independently. So you might know that your kid needs to get dressed first and have breakfast, or breakfast first and then get dressed and hair and shoes last because of their need. But if you realize they can complete a task more independently, doing it or better first, allow that flexibility, allow that independence to happen. If they prefer to get dressed before having breakfast and doing their hair and then having breakfast, if that works well for your family, obviously it depends on your family model and your situation, but if it works and they can make it work, allow that, because again, it fosters that independency that they're taking ownership of what they're doing, and it makes it stronger for you and takes pressure off you as well. Because again, the whole goal is that you don't have to do much. And I will say a big thing too is involve the kids. Let them involve in the planning too of how the routine works. If they say, well, I prefer to get dressed before I come downstairs and have breakfast, or you know what, I want to have a half an hour in my pajamas while I eat breakfast, or allow that conversation and then kind of use that part of the planning too. Maybe that goes back in the conversation, those 20 minutes of buffer time. And then let them, if you can't, let them choose their breakfast out and pick their pick out their clothes. And that kind of can go back into creating different routines of you're getting their own breakfast if they're a little older, if it's like cereal or something that's accessible to them. Also, this encourages independence, gives them age, especially give them age appropriate responsibilities, encourage them to do things on their own. So, if they're 9 years old, they probably can get milk and cereal themselves. And so, if you want to encourage that, 5-year-old typically develop can give themselves stress. So, things like that you're able to do, but understanding that a 2-year-old will definitely need some more support, they'll need some more guidance. But you probably, an older child who's neurotypical developed, can probably go, here's the list that we've done. Can you follow this task? Can you tell me when you've done all the tasks? And giving them that sort of independent responsibility, especially for older kids, like, oh, I'm a big kid now. I feel big and responsible. So I think involving the kids as much, also asking them how they want. It's not them being told what to do, it's them being part of what's happening. And therefore it's their task list. It's their, I found just having kids when I'll say, okay, well, this is what you've decided. Is this what you like? And sometimes they'll say no. I'm like, great, well, what can we do to fix this? That little bit of what can we do suddenly is, well, I want to do this instead. And it gives them a sense of control, independence, autonomy, and it helps it because you're not having this argument back and forth of it has to happen this way, but you're still getting the end results just with flexibility. So age are definitely appropriate, have them keep track of the tasks they complete. So it could be a checklist. This could be done physical checklist. For younger kids, you can use stickers or like be Velcro. I have these little Velcro sticky things and these little stars I put on. I'll show you some examples on the next slide. And what I can do is, or you can make them, or like for older kids, you can have a little whiteboard check off or a piece of paper to check off. And you can make this super easy at home if you want. It doesn't have to be this crazy fancy thing you buy offline. It can be a piece of paper that you either laminate. I've actually done it with packing tape, where you get like clear packing tape and just lay it over, and then a whiteboard marker or a marker, like a margin marker, and just it wipes off still. And use that as a laminator. If you have a laminator like I do, great, but not everyone does, and that's fine. You shouldn't have to buy a laminator unless you want to. And so here's some examples I've made in the past. Here is a morning routine that is just something I typed up on Google Docs and printed out, and I've laminated it, and kids have been able to check off. Rex is the name of my cat, if you're curious. And it is 5 steps. It's, it's simple of get dressed, breakfast, brush teeth. And a kid can go through and very simple enough that. And this is an example of a younger child having a visual aid for brushing their teeth. So younger kids, you may need to have more of a visual support in the sense of they may not be able to do. On this one too, we had these are stars. Actually, I used the stars for this, that they had stars, and we had moved the stars down of where they were on the picture. So each time they had done a step, we had moved the star down of where they were done, and that helped the child be able to do what they were doing. And then another visual support I've done with kids too is that this was a younger child too. They were pre-K kid, and we had put the items in the bag. And so what we did is we had this little piece of paper on Velcros, and we Velcroed them into the bag. So each time the item was done, they got put into the bag right here. So they put them in the backpack. So this is the example. So these are different types of routine you can build on. But going back to the similar idea, just having the Velcro, is that you can have a visual aids of picture. Maybe it's a dress, maybe it's a bowl of cereal, maybe it's just teeth or a toothbrush, maybe it's a lunchbox picture here. Maybe it's a checklist item. So you can use visual supports too for younger kids if you want that. These are just different examples I wanted to show of how using that. And lastly, one of my big suggestions is to prepare the night before if possible. So lay out school, do what you can the night before. I feel sometimes we're a little bedtime routine has its own chaos. I will acknowledge that it has its own chaos. But if there is some moment that you can do some things as part of the bedtime routine to help with the morning, I think it's a little easier than trying to do it all in the morning. So maybe it's laying out clothes, maybe packing school bag as much as you can with certain items like extra clothes, or putting the sneakers for gym class the next day, or preparing lunch the night before. I actually did have one client whose family, the kids would wear the clothes to bed the night before. They would take their baths and put on fresh clothes at night, and they would sleep in their clothes, and then morning get up, and it worked for them because the kids had early school, just where they had to drive to school, so it was an early time. And if you want suggestions on how to like prepare lunch and make it easier and having the kids involved with that, our next workshop is Lunchbox Chaos. I do have solutions on that as well, because I do know that is chaotic in itself, and being every day like, what do you want for lunch? What do you want for lunch? And let's find a way to make it easy possible. Also, set a bedtime routine. I would say morning routine and bedtime routine kind of book in the days. And ensure the kids get enough sleep by having consistent bedtime routine, by having that system of what we do at bedtime. Again, brings back to that notion of feeling secure, feeling peaceful. It has them know what happened, so they can go to bed very easily. It's not going, oh, are we going to bed early or later this night? And then they go to sleep same time, enables them to wake up a similar time every morning, which enables us to start the bedtime routine very similar. So some tips I have is be consistent and stay flexible, which feels very redundant of each other, but it works. So stick to routine as much as possible to help the kids get used to it, especially in the early stages, to try to keep as much, even if you're going on vacation, if you're going on vacation to like a beach house, do the morning routine as much as possible. Maybe instead of like, them picking up school clothes or clothes to go to camp, they're picking up the clothes to go to the beach that day or the outing that day. And they're, instead of packing the backpack at camp, they're helping you pack the beach bag that day. So it's just transferring one item for another. It does feel very weird because it's not the same exact, but the idea is to keep the same flow. So maybe we're missing one step, but we're keeping as much as possible. Also, positive reinforcement, praise when they do really good things, reward them verbally. Maybe if you want a sticker chart, if you want to do like, okay, these are how many days we did this week. Awesome, awesome, awesome. This is huge. Just positive reinforcement just means like if you verbally praise a great job. Oh, that was awesome. High five. You did it all by yourself. I'm so impressed. Oh, thank you so much for helping me today. Just great compliments, nice things. It really helps build reinforcement, is what actually builds consistent behavior. And so it's a really good thing to keep doing. And that's a huge step that will keep it consistent. And also in terms of staying flexible, adjust as needed. Keep what works, change what doesn't. So again, going back to the notion of kids involved, we talked about the kids wanting to change earlier. If you're realizing the notion of doing lunch boxes at night doesn't work for you, rather in the morning, do in the morning. But if one step of the routine that you have does not work for you, or having the kids do it does not work for you, and it just brings everyone more peace to have you do as a parent or have the kids take it over, vice versa, do what works best. We want to kind of create as much as easiest process as possible. I've had parents, I asked one mom once, she had a routine, and I said, why do you do that? And she said, oh, my sister-in-law told me. I'm like, do you like that? And she goes, no, I hate this. I'm like, then don't do it. And she goes, I don't have to. I'm like, no, if you don't like it and it is not required, don't do it. And I think that's always kind of a hard thing for people to go, oh, okay. And so in the sense of, I like to say, talking about peace, I would say model the peace you want. If things don't go perfectly, stay calm and positive. It's a notion of don't cry over spilled milk. And it's definitely like, I'm so stressed. We have 20 minutes to get out the door and then milk just spilled everywhere. And I have to go, my brain goes, did a glass break and a kid's getting cut? No. Okay, so everyone's safe. It's just milk. We'll clean it up. It may smell sour later on. That'll be annoying, but that's future Christina's problem, not now. And it is stressful. It is absolutely. But the thing is, we can be big blow up, and it's totally hard when we're stressed too not to do that and to have a big like, we spilled the milk. Or we can go, you know what, it happened. Let's clean up together, buddy. Next time, what can we do better? Mistakes, because maybe they had the glass too close to the edge, and you go, okay, here we go. And so, so like what we can do is model peace, modeling examples we want, show them like, oh, if you have a routine that you do, maybe talk about your routine. Like, oh, I have to go get dressed too, because it's my time to get dressed. Or I'm eating my breakfast because it's part of my morning routine too. So I think you can kind of model that situation. So that said, and clothing thoughts, creating a morning routine takes some effort, but it can foster independence and reduce stress for yourself and give you more peace in the morning, which is the overall goal of the routines. And so some final group reflections. How are you feeling? And what questions do you have? And what are your takeaways from today's workshop?
Thanks, Christina. These were some great examples. And I love, not only was it about the kiddos, but it was also about me. So trying to keep me calm, trying to keep me peaceful, trying to keep me feeling safe as I'm getting the kids all up and moving and all of those things. So those are some really just good examples. Even the last one on the spilled milk, it's like, it's going to happen. They're kids, right?
Yeah.
Something's going to glitch in the routine, and I can kind of choose to stay calm, or I can choose to have that kind of, oh gosh, blow up moment about it. But that was just a nice closing point to end cap this thing. That was great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big focus of like the why behind, or what we want the routine, the goal is really to find a peaceful morning, is to start our day in a peaceful note. I think most parents and caregivers want that. It's the overall goal of the routine. It's not just to like get out the door, but no parent wants to be the shutty, stressful parent in the morning about their kids. And I think parents want to do that. And so I think if they can have a moment to be like, okay, what is my goal here? What is my why behind my why of the whole routine here? It's create peace. So small parts aren't going to always work perfect every day, and that's okay. And it's just trying to find out what can I be flexible to stay on and what can I not, but also stay consistent, because there's some things you have to stay consistent on. You have a child taking a medication, you can't have to be consistent. You can't be flexible on that. But if a child doesn't want to eat breakfast, can you maybe give a banana in the car right to school? Is that something you can be flexible on? Is it realistic? So it's one of those things, like, your family too. I would say people, your family, your family's needs, trust your gut in that aspect too. Just because one thing works for one family doesn't always mean it's going to work for another. So before we go, I like to always let you know to our next meeting for this whole series would be Lunchbox Chaos. We're going to talk about there. That is on July 28th. That's going to talk about kind of like, how can you get your kids to help you plan a lunchbox routine? Like, how can we have your kids help you decide what they want for lunch? And how can they help making lunch? And how can it make it easier for yourself? Because this is something I know parents who kids have to bring lunches to camp or school. And it's always this, oh my gosh, I hate making lunches. It's such a process to do in the morning. The kids never eat half the things we want. What can we do? And so we're going to kind of figure out how can we kind of create a system with that to make it easier for you. I'm going to some tips and suggestions there. And this was such a quick run through. And so I know that was only touching a tidbit of all the information and probably questions you had. So if you still have questions or you want to learn more about parent coaching and how it could help you, you're welcome to contact me at Christina@umbrellaandbag.com, as well as attending and watching this session today. You can get 10% off an hour of parent coaching by using the code MBMMSUM24. That's for Umbrella and Bag Morning Madness 24 Summer 24. So use that code if you check out, or if you send me email and have that code, I can make sure we can build that comes off as well. But also feel welcome to send me some questions too. I do also have consultations. Just simply your first consultation was a free hour, but if you want more specialized, like, oh hey, we need services, definitely utilize their 10% off. But yeah, so thank you so much for coming. Definitely come next session on the 28th. And if you have not signed up to get some follow-up information, especially the resources I wanted to show you. I didn't show you all the cool resources. Like, I have this guy I forgot to even talk to you guys about. But I will send you guys an email out. So please go to umbrellaandbag.com/summer and fill out that form, where I'll be able to send you an email kind of highlighting some points here, send you also some example resources of routine schedules, as well as some tips that a little more detailed that I've worked in the past as well, that have worked for me, and just touch you. And also just kind of keep touching forward for the other events as well. So I want to thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you enjoy.